This is the Misdirected Mark Podcast, a podcast about gaming, game mastering, and entertaining you, our listeners. We are explicit, you have been warned, and I'd like to thank Mike Willard for letting us use his music on our show. Now let's pick up those mics and get on with this thing.
Okay, so we know how many guards there are?
Yep, Professor Fox got the intel. There should be 10. You know how good they are talking to people.
And security cameras?
Should be telling all the tech work. They know AV, so they should be recording the vlog video for the entire time we're in.
All right, gang. How's it going so far?
Pretty good. We've got the guard schedule and the security cameras figured out, and Jerry has the chemicals to disable the locks.
Excellent.
How'd it go with arranging a getaway driver?
Piece of cake. Queen Senda herself has been researching the city streets when she was doing all that stuff for Cheese Drift, so she's going to be all set for handling our vehicle.
Awesome. So with 3 of us, that's 6. You think we need one more?
We need one more.
I got the perfect candidate. This will go off without a hitch. By tomorrow night, the pink panda will be ours.
And with that, welcome to the 434th episode of the Misdirected Mark Podcast. Today we're going to talk about jobs and RPGs, how to run them, and how to get the most out of playing them. Along the way, we'll take your comments, suggestions, and examples from the chat room for life before heading over to the after show. But first, my name is Jerry.
My name is Phil.
And I am Old Man Logan. All right. Welcome back. As usual, during the current situation, we're going to do a temperature check real quick just to make sure everybody's feeling good before we head into the lobby. So, Phil, how you doing?
Physically, I think I'm pretty okay. Yeah, you know what? Physically, I'm okay enough. I guess I'm like nearing 50, so I think if am I fine physically is now a loaded question, right? Like, yeah, is there something hurting? Yes, probably. Is it something to be concerned about? No, I'm just like almost 50. So yeah, I'm fine. Mentally, I don't know. I think I'm somewhere in the middle. I think I'm like a solid C+ right now. I've been sleeping like garbage. I haven't really been very, I haven't been very inspired to do very much. We'll talk about it when we get to the conversation corner, but I'm just not really doing anything. Just kind of existing. So, existing enough, and I'm sleeping, I think, the bare minimum. I'm sleeping like somewhere like a, if you were interrogating somebody by the CIA, like somewhere in that range.
Wow.
On a good note, I probably won't crack due to sleep deprivation, so. But yeah, that's me. Jerry, how about you?
Pretty good. Last week was my cheating week, so I was kind of running hot and cold all week. I was on all day, where I'm the focus of attention for 8 people for 9-10 hours straight, and then came home and all of our games got canceled, so I didn't actually do a lot of role playing until Saturday. So I was up and down. In fact, my brain was all over the place, so I didn't actually watch any Voyager last week. I just kind of came home and got online and played video games with my friends and kind of decompress. But this week I'm better mentally. I'm feeling a lot better. It's been a chaotic start to the week, but it's doing pretty well. Physically, the weather we're having up and down just beat me up all over the place. My allergies have been going a little tough. My sleep has been a little erratic. So physically I've been up and down, but I'm looking forward to a better week because I guess we're going to have some better weather this week. So I won't be quite as stressed out or as sleepy. So looking forward to it. So starting the week. Bob?
Yeah, so physically, I'm pretty good. My neck has been acting up a little bit recently, and that's for a very good reason because I've been playing too much Valheim and not getting up enough and moving around. So I have myself to blame for that. But other than that, physically feeling pretty good. Mentally, not like 100% and chipper and tra-la-la or anything like that, but not doing bad. It's been a pretty good week, Level is pretty much where I would put myself. A nice even keel. So, with that all being said, let's do the thing where we go and talk about our one thing for the week. for my one thing, Friday after I got off of work, I drove down to the lake and visited my parents in person for the first time in a year. Got to hug my mom and dad. Got to spend time with them and chill, and it was everything that it should have been. It was glorious. We just sat, we chatted a little bit, we had a couple of meals together, we did a whole lot of nothing, watched some of the NFL draft on TV, went to bed way earlier than I normally would on a Friday night, but I was tired as hell. It was all that clean air and good living.
Which lake?
Finley Lake, down near Jamestown-ish.
Yep.
Between Jamestown and Erie.
That's cool.
Yeah. So, I was in bed by like 9:30 on Friday night, and then I was awake at like 6:45.
Oh.
Because I was at bed at 9:30. But yeah, it was nice. It was quiet. It was relaxing. Got to do an extended drive in my new wheels, so it was an enjoyable one-day trip. So very, very much a good time, and good to see my family again, my parents.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. They must have been excited to see you.
Oh, yeah. It was good. All right. Jerry, what about you?
I watched the season finale for Invincible, caught up to the show. Proving to be an amazing comic book show for me. I really enjoy it a lot. I like the characters. I like the voice actors. I like the story, and I like the kind of pastiches of existing, mostly DC comic characters, but it's fun to watch, it's fun to follow, and the action is top notch. So, it's got some tugs around on your heartstrings. There's some feels in this show, so I like it a lot. So I've been enjoying it. Phil?
We got a chance, the three of us, along with Schmitty and Sunday, got a chance to started playing a game called Once More Into the Void. Which was quite enjoyable, and something you're going to hear us talk more about next week. Hint, hint. I don't want to say anything. I'm not going to say anything more than that, but hint, hint. But yeah, we got into the first part of the game. The game's great. It's a story-based game about a crew that used to, like a ship crew that used to be together, but something happened, and they've all gone their separate ways, angry at the captain for letting them down / betraying them. And now they have to come back together to do this one last job, right? Once more into the void. So we, and so we started the first part of that, which was like, we kind of figured out who we were. We kind of figured out what our situation was. And we did the first part of the game, which is the montage where the captain walks back into everybody else's life, and coaxes them into coming back one more time. So we're going to pick up the game on Saturday from there. Overall, enjoyed it a bunch. We'll have a lot more to say about it. We have a lot more to say about it next week. My hope is we'll have finished playing through it by next week. Hard to say with us because we love chewing scenes. So if we get through enough, you have to play so many scenes before you get to the end. I don't want to rush it, so we might just be 2/3 of the way through it. When we for next week, but we'll see. We'll have chewed up enough of the game to have plenty to say about it. So it was good. It was fun. I haven't played a story game in a while. I think most of the pandemic I've been playing more traditional stuff. So it was actually fun to play like a lighter, more story-based game with, a little more acting and stuff like that. So it was good. It was good. It was I thought it was a nice start.
Yeah.
And also I think Sunday and I got some inspirations from the game about some things to do with ditch lilies, which I think we'll also talk about maybe in a little detail next week as well.
Cool.
That's about that. Announcements. One, as I hinted to before, we might have a guest. We might have some guests on the show next week. I'm not saying anything solid. I like to tease these things. I'm gonna vague cast about it. but wink, wink. Should be fun next week. And the only other announcement we have is we are in week 9 of our Voyager Watch Party. We are settling into our second week of season 4, and boy, if you're watching live, we're watching like 2 great episodes tonight. I'm really excited. These are 2 of my favorite Voyager episodes, so that'll be fun. We're watching Year in Hell Part 1 and 2.
Yep.
Okay.
With a name like that, you know it's got to be good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, these are the episodes that stood out for me from back when I only watched part of it when it first came out. But I remember these, and I remember being impressed with these episodes.
Yeah, these are just like really good sci-fi and good Voyager stories. Like, these are just solid. I also will say, because we are recording live, right? We are recording on May 4th, so May the 4th be with you.
And also with you.
And also with you, yes. You can tell who's been raised Catholic.
Yeah.
My whole life I've been doing that. So yeah. But anyway, it's May 4th, so happy Star Wars Day. I'm repping. I got my Star Wars shirt on. I got the classic comfy shirt. This is this is like my tried and true. This is my weekender. Like, I typically just wear this shirt on the weekends, but like I pulled it out of the drawer specifically for tonight.
Mm-hmm. I'm wearing my Chewbacca shirt, so
nice.
And Bob is trolling everybody.
I'm trekking. I realized today that I actually don't own a Star Wars shirt. I may have owned one at one point, but it was so long ago that it's long since gone into the bin. So I'll have to rectify that, because I do need some Star Wars merch. So
the best thing that the pandemic did for me was, like, I really upped my geek shirt game. I bought last year I bought a lot of t-shirts. I bought enough that, like, I actually don't need to buy any more t-shirts. Like, I'm kind of like full up right now.
Yeah, too many.
And yeah, so I just, like, I have a variety. I have a variety now in Star Trek and Star Wars and a few Marvel, and I feel like I feel good about that. For a long time I didn't really have good geek shirts.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I have an opportunity. Oh, go ahead, Jerry.
I feel like I may have too many geek shirts. I'm constantly going through trying to sort them out.
Yeah.
Figure out which ones I should be getting rid of, which ones I should keep.
I've got a pile of shirts that I need to, like, either I think I just need to give up on.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they're shirts that I don't think I'm going to get small enough again to get into, and I think I just need to be like, it's okay. Yep. These shirts can go, and I could just have that space back in my dresser.
Yeah. Last thing I'll say on the topic of that is I have an opportunity now that the Disney folks made a deal with the NFL, and this year they announced a whole line of NFL Star Wars T-shirts, so you can get, like, your team name, and then, like, Star Wars stuff. Like, they have different ones. They have, like, Republic ones and Empire ones, so you can get, like, Darth Vader and a Stormtrooper and the Emperor with your favorite team underneath it and different stuff like that. So there's a synergy there for multiple fandoms.
No, I'm just saying, like, I mean, I could get like a Rebel Bills.
Yeah.
Yeah, so far there's only 2 styles that I've seen. I haven't looked at the site to see what the other ones are, if there are any, but you can definitely get, like, the Bills with Han, Leia, and Luke in some of their poses.
Could I get Han Solo instead of in his normal pants with the white stripe? Could I get him in the Bills Zumbas? Like, that would be
amusing.
That would be like that to me would be like peak marketing right there.
Peak marketing. All right.
Chewbacca jumping through a table.
Oh, there you go. All right.
Anyway, that's
yep.
basically all we got, right?
Yeah,
like,
that's all we got.
We don't really have anything else.
Yeah.
No.
So that brings us to the feature segment, which is a workshop, Phil.
Yes. Is it going?
Are you not hearing it?
Nah, I legitimately couldn't hear it.
I can't hear it either.
We did a pre-check.
Workshop, doing jobs, pulling off heists, doing jobs, taking the money for yourself. You don't need any boss. You don't need anyone to give you a mission. You're going to do this stuff yourself in the workshop.
Don't suck.
Don't suck. Yeah.
That is a bad opening, my friends.
That is the reason why we do those checks in the beginning. I pushed the button.
No,
heard the
We
stuff,
heard you. We heard
and
you.
everything should have been
Yeah, we
fine.
heard that.
That's just weird. All right.
It's weird.
All right. Well, let's just do the thing then.
All right. So tonight our workshop is about doing jobs. Because last week we talked about mission-based adventures, and there's so much overlap with job-based adventures that it seemed logical to cover jobs as well. So tonight we're going to look at job-based adventures, how they differ from and are similar to missions, and how to best GM this type of framework.
And we're not going to waste any time getting started. So, Phil, let me cue you up for some definitions here.
Behold! You are in the presence of Definition Panda.
Booyah. All right. Let's get defined right away the keyword for the night, which is job. A task or piece of work, especially one that is paid. I like this one for a couple parts, right? Task or work, meaning you're doing something. Paid means that there's a kind of reward or something of value for the task that you are doing. Okay? So keep that in mind, right? We're doing something and we're getting paid for it. Here's another definition, which is a little more on point for what we're talking about tonight. To carry out a crime, especially a robbery. Key parts of this one, because I really like this definition, right? To carry out, meaning again, you're doing something. Crime being a key word here. Whatever it is you're doing is most likely illegal to somebody. Like, it might not feel illegal to you, but it's probably illegal to whom you're doing it to. So if we kind of take both of those definitions and mash them together and translate them into like an RPG, then the job is a type of adventure framework where the characters initiate some sort of crime or crimes in order to get some kind of reward or something else of value. Okay, so that's the job, and that's going to be our focus. Now, there's a lot of overlap with mission, so I want to give you the definition of mission again, and then we'll talk about the differences and similarities. So a mission is a type of adventure framework where the characters are given an assignment to complete to advance the ideology or goals of an NPC, typically involving travel.
All right. So we know from last week's discussion that there's some overlaps between jobs and missions. Jerry, can you go over those, please?
All right. Well, a couple of overlaps between these two frameworks. They kind of occur in the middle. In both missions and jobs, the group are going to have a target. They're going to have an objective. They're going to need to make a plan on how to achieve it, and then they're going to need to execute that plan. So a lot of things we talked about last week regarding legwork and execution with regards to missions also going to apply to jobs.
But since we're spending a whole episode talking about them, they also have to be different. So, Phil, what makes jobs different from missions?
Yeah, so we're going to get into this in a lot more detail in just a few minutes. But the biggest difference between jobs and missions is how they initiate and how they complete. So basically the opposite of everything Jerry talked about. Jerry talked about everything being the same in the middle. Missions and jobs are different on the bookends. Yep. Jobs are initiated by the players through their characters. They decide what crime or criminal enterprise they want to engage in and who or what the target's going to be. In addition, after the execution of the plan, especially if they're stealing something, like not just cash, then they may have to deal with how to convert that into something more usable for them, like how to turn your priceless art into money that you could spend. Otherwise, you're just running around with a piece of priceless art. Yeah.
Sometimes you have to do some kind of conversion with cash, too, because it may be...
You do. Sometimes you have to convert it. Sometimes you have to wash your cash.
Launder.
Take it to the laundry, yes, so to speak.
Hey, we got paid in Bitcoin.
Yay. Okay, so now that we have some idea of the similarities and differences, let's break down what the job framework looks like. All
right, let's look at the anatomy of jobs. As we did last week, we're going to review the framework of a typical job. And again, there's going to be exceptions. This is a typical job. There are countless variations on this framework, but the one we review should be recognizable to most of us. So, Phil, it starts with
It starts with scouting. In this phase, the players find potential targets and objectives. This often involves some role-playing, some skill checks. Like they might get the group might be casing a location for a robbery, right? So they might just like actually make some skill checks to see what they can, like what they can see about the security and stuff. It might be social, right? Like they may get a tip from a contact about an important shipment coming into port. So that might be like some role playing or some social skills. They may be camping on a message board looking for information about an object or a person of interest. So that could also be it may either be social based on the message board, or it could just be some skill checks, things like that. But the goal of the scouting phase is for characters to generate ideas for potential jobs.
So after that, they have to select their jobs. So with some potential list of jobs in the previous phase, the character select the job that they wish to undertake. It's going to be on a character, at the character level, or it can even be on the player level. Here's one of the major differences between jobs and missions. In the missions, the first two phases are done by the NPC who gives the characters the mission. But in jobs, the characters have to do all this themselves. And the goal of this phase is going to be to select the target and select the objective.
Yeah, you basically come out of this phase at the same place you came out of when you accepted the mission.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like at this point, you should end this phase when like, we are stealing this statue.
The pink panda.
The pink panda. We are stealing the pink panda. Yeah. Okay. So the next phase, and we talked about this last week, so we're not going to beat it to death, is legwork. In this phase, right, the players are going to do some work to get prepared to execute the mission. And the goal of this phase is to feel comfortable to go execute the mission. Like that is, you don't leave this phase. I mean, some players do, and then hilarity ensues. But you really shouldn't leave this phase until you're comfortable with what you're going to do. And then, as we talked about last week in more detail, during this phase, you're really working on 3 areas, right? So you're coming up with a plan. That's the main piece of this, right? You're coming up with a plan, and in support of that, you are collecting intelligence. So maybe now that you know that you're going to rob the art installation, you might now, as part of your intelligence gathering, you might send somebody in to, do a walk by past the painting and kind of see what they can see. Or you might even have somebody like pay a guy to cross the line on the ground to see what alarms go off when, as a way to kind of test the security, right? So but the goal of that intelligence is to get enough information to better build your plan, right? Because your plan, and I think we all know this when you've done planning, your plan is full of questions, and the more of them you answer, the more comfortable you will be moving out of this phase. But you need to fill in those gaps. So intelligence is the primary way to do that. The second thing that you'll be doing is collecting assets for the mission, in this case, the job. You'll be collecting assets, and assets are people and devices that will facilitate executing your plan. Yeah. So maybe you need to get one of those like pneumatic grappling hooks to get up to the top of the thing, or maybe you need janitor outfits so that you can take over the janitor crew in the art museum. Those are assets. And you're going to collect both of those. You're going to collect intelligence and assets in order to fill in your plan and then eventually feel comfortable enough to lead to what?
The execution. Again, we talked about this in some depth last week. This is when the characters now go and attempt to achieve the objective. This is when they're going to enact their plan. They're going to involve skill checks, role-playing, may even involve some combat. Depending on their plan and the outcomes of the skill checks, it can either go smoothly or not so smoothly. And there are a few subparts of this section that are worth noting. First, we have the insertion, where they get into the actual plan itself and start executing it. Then there's the twist. There's always a twist somewhere in the middle of the plot to make sure things don't go completely smoothly, to give the player something to react against they hadn't planned on it exactly. And then there's the extraction, getting out with the objective, assuming they got it. So those are similar to what happens in the mission, but they're going to occur as you go through, and they can take various lengths of time. But this phase ends when the outcome of the mission has been determined and the characters leave the mission site, which then sends them to, Phil?
The next one is, right, I know, we all want to make that same joke. It's so good. Anyway.
Derailed.
Jerry did such a good job of handing it off to me, and I couldn't resist the joke. Sorry. After the execution, when you have the goods, assuming you have them, right? Like things went enough to plan, and you have the goods. You may now need to fence them.
Yes.
And that is, you've stolen something, and you now need to convert it into whatever passes for money in your world, right? So if we just stick to modern times, you've stolen the artwork, and you need to get like money put into your Cayman Islands account.
Yep. So, for example, the characters have stolen a set of diamonds and need to convert them into cash. Or the hackers transferred a large amount of money from the corporate mainframe and needs to launder the money before it can go to the team's accounts.
Sure. Right? Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
In these cases, you need a fence. And a quick definition, fence comes from thieves' slang for defense, as in the idea that selling your stolen goods to a middleman, you wouldn't actually be caught with the goods. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you were, if people are looking for somebody, if they're looking for stolen diamonds and you no longer have the stolen diamonds, that's like a layer of defense. At least that's what Wikipedia said.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But the fence, and they go by different names. Sometimes fixer is like in Cyberpunk, but traditionally this is the fence, right? The fence is the person who takes the goods from the character and gives them something more usable, often cash. And implied here, untraceable cash.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like something that's not going to come back on our crew. And the idea is that the fence is a character who is well connected and has the capital to pay the characters for what they've stolen, and yet sell it to somebody else at a margin that is profitable, and it's a win-win. The players don't. The players get rid of the hot item. They get yummy cash, right? Like, which is usable for all sorts of things. And then the fence takes on the responsibility of moving this item through their web of contacts, and then they'll get money back from that.
Yeah.
Often we don't really trouble ourselves on the economy of the fence
And
in the
honestly,
game, but
it really can take any form at all. I mean, your fence could take your stolen Monet and give the characters $3 million in Google gift cards.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and in fact, in some ways, like that may be a good untraceable, right?
Yeah.
Like,
or Amazon gift cards, and like all of a sudden your Amazon shopping goes up.
Right.
If all I wanted was cash, why did I just keep the Monet anyway?
Right.
Really bad joke. I'm not an art expert, so. Anyway. So, what happens though is that the character can sell these items themselves if they want. This is going to come with risks. They'll probably make a better profit, but they need to know people who'd be interested and can afford the items, and they need to hold on to those items until the transaction is done.
Yeah, this is like this is the equivalent of not using a realtor to sell your house. Like, yes, you will make more money by not using a realtor to sell your house, but you will have to do all the rest of the work.
Yep.
Right? Like the fence is a service, right? The fence is what you, it is the price of doing business, in a way that says, like, I only want to be responsible for this item up to a certain point, and then I just want my reward and be done. And the fence provides this as a service. So, so in some other cases, characters won't need to actually convert the items that the job has, entailed, right?
Yeah.
Like, first of all, the item could be intangible, right? Like, it might be like information that they needed. They did a job to get some information. Sometimes you do a job to get info on another job, right? Like, you might rob the security firm that is that built the security system for the site that you really want.
Yeah.
right? And what you really just took was the information. Sometimes the item you steal is already untraceable. Like you did a job and stole the drug lord's shipment of money. That might not be the brightest thing to do, but they already laundered it. It was pretty untraceable to begin with, so you don't actually need a fence. You can just take it and move it yourself.
And sometimes what you're stealing isn't even valuable in money. Maybe you're helping to liberate somebody from prison, or get somebody out of a situation. And if the thing that you're liberating is either something you want to keep, like a starship, or somebody that you don't want to just sell for money, like people, then there might not even be a means to get to the fence at all, and it might be an entirely different campaign story going from there.
Yep.
Absolutely. Right. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I mean, a jailbreak is a job.
Yeah.
Right.
Rescue the princess who is being held against her will, and she dies in the escape. So
I mean, a good extraction is worth its weight in gold.
Yeah.
Excuse me. A good extraction is helping get the princess off the Death Star. We're talking about May the 4th today. That is a job. That is a job. I'm not going to say they rescued her. I think she got there. I think they got there and she kind of rescued them, but we're going to go with that. So,
I mean, there is a twist, right? You find out that she's more badass than all of you. Like, yeah. So anyway, and the last thing is, like, the item that you steal could be directly usable to the players. Like, perhaps you steal the hyperdrive, like a prototype hyperdrive, and install it right into your ship.
Yep.
In which case you don't need a fence because you're just moving it right into your ship.
Yep.
So in some cases, and that's why this fencing step is optional, in some cases you don't actually need a fence. Because you have a direct means to use the item, or it doesn't need to be converted into currency. But when needed, the goal of the fence is to convert the stolen items into something that the characters can use.
Right. And after that's done, then we're going to go into, just like with missions, the aftermath. This is very similar to missions, and it's also basically the denouement of the job. This may involve spending some money earned for the mission, or just some downtime, or the repercussions of the mission. In some cases, the mechanic for heat, how much attention the character generate, and in some cases, the GM will narrate the greater impact of the job on the story, arc, campaign, etc. Now that you've taken the drug lord's money, now he doesn't have the funds to continue his empire, and an even worse drug lord has stepped up to take the reins. Wahahaha. But you got revenge but you still got revenge on the drug lord himself.
Show the scene where he flips the table over.
Yeah.
Tells the Sicario to go find and put a bullet in whoever stole his money.
I want his family dead. All right. So now that we understand the structure of what makes up the framework of a job, let's talk about some GMing advice for getting the most out of it.
Yep. All right. So our GMing advice is going to focus on the difference between these frameworks, which means that we're going to focus heavily on scouting, selection, and fencing. Our advice on legwork, execution, and aftermath is all in last episode. So just go hit up that last episode, because everything we said about legwork, execution, and aftermath is all true here as well.
Yep.
Okay, so here are some of our tips. Jer?
First of all, involve all the players in the scouting phase. Every player is the way to find potential jobs. Their own actions, their contests, etc. And if the whole group is involved, the players engaged. And feel free to ask players about this, even if they're playing in a game where their character might be more single-faceted. If you've got the fighter who only runs around beating things up, he's probably got contacts with the local fighters guild, or is good at carousing bars or something. Feel free to kind of nudge your players, give them the chance to take their own initiative, but you want to make sure that all of them get involved in the scouting phase.
Yeah, otherwise this becomes the job of one character.
Yeah.
And that can get kind of boring. And even if you have one character whose primary job is scouting, you should always have other characters getting tips and info on jobs.
Or being involved in it. If you've got a character you might have a player who's just not good at scouting, and maybe they are playing the big fighter, then have them bodyguard somebody else and have some other encounter where they get to show how big and tough they are and intimidate somebody so that the other character can be part of the mission. Be sure to find ways to drag them all in. And this is where you as a GM can think outside the box in ways to bring players in and keep them all engaged in the story, but also engage with each other. But they'll have a lot of fun with that. This is a chance to find a character who has something they've always wanted to do and don't get a chance to do it. Find a way to help them use that for scouting.
Yeah, and like you said, it's good for everybody at the table because you keep everybody involved. And it's also, it's a good change of pace sometimes because you get a little different perspective. You know, Hannibal may be your big mastermind at planning your jobs, but every once in a while you got to let Face plan the job because some weird shit might happen, and it'll be fun.
And hopefully it'll involve giant cranes.
Yeah, cargo containers. That's why
you gotta like the twist in that one where he just puts the rocket right into the ship, right? Like just
it's a good movie.
I love that movie. That movie doesn't get enough love. I'm just going to say that just as an aside right here for a moment. That A-Team movie does not get enough love, and it deserves way more love than it gets.
I agree.
All right. Next tip. If you're running a job-based campaign, so like let's say that you're, I did this years ago. I had this heist game where we just, it was a D20 modern game, a game that I would totally reprise in Fate nowadays. It was a D20 modern game where the characters were a crew working out of Vegas and doing different jobs. If you're doing a campaign like that, and you could have just translated that whole thing to Star Wars, by the way. Like it is directly transferable to a Star Wars Outer Rim scoundrel game. You should have a short list in your campaign of leads for the characters to select from. If all they ever have is the next lead in front of them, like you're really just doing de facto missions.
Yeah.
Right? Where the GM is the mission giver, right? Like what you really want to do, what really accentuates being your own crew, right? And not reporting to somebody is having the choice of potential jobs. So you want to have like a short list of, well, we could do this art heist, or we could, we could sneak in and get the formula for, the red mist drug from this guy, and then that way, when the players are in that selection phase, it's actually really a selection.
One of the games that did a good job with this, that's less of a story game, a more traditional game, was Pathfinder's, a Kingmaker game.
Well, sure,
which was kind of a hex crawl, and every month actually, it was printed on the inside of the AP when you got it, and as a PDF to print on, had a mission board that would just list little mini missions, like this thing is missing, or this, and the players could go and kind of pick and choose which ones they were interested in, which often led to other story adventures they could then lead into. But it did a good job of giving them a whole selection of stuff that they could get into based on what their particular adventuring style was. If they wanted to do hack and slash, they go clear the goblins out of the cave. If they were interested in more drama, they could, find this person's missing boyfriend and find out why they disappeared and where and so on. I think that's kind of really well.
So let's talk about this for a second. Yeah. Mm-hmm. If you are doing a job-based campaign, like you are a group of Star Wars scoundrels, mm-hmm. right? Living on the fringes of the galaxy and doing undertaking various jobs to make more credits. You are actually playing a sandbox game, right? Now, it's not a hex crawl, because a hex crawl game, not to get overly technical here and with definitions, but a hex crawl game is one by which you are traversing some area that you do not know, one unit, in this case a hex, at a time, and discovering what's in the hex. But another type of sandbox is one of these job-based campaigns where you have this list of potential targets that you only know a little about at this moment, right? Like we know that there's a prototype hyperdrive on this planet, and we know that a group of huts are moving a whole bunch of spice that we could take down and make way more money if we moved it ourselves. And the Imperials are moving a whole bunch of, Beskar from, steel from one place to another. That's a sandbox. You can go from any one of those job points to the next one. So you are actually running a sandbox style game when you do that. So you want it and that's why that's all right. So that's why it's really important, going back to this tip. That's why you need to populate your sandbox with a few things so that you have choices.
And if you need some help with that, there's actually a company out there called Unlimited Realms that just finished a Kickstarter called the Deck of Rumors, and all it is it's multiple decks of cards that are basically job-based themes. They had one that was one that's gossip, one that's rumors, one that's quest, all money evented, town events, a village deck, an adventure deck, a sea deck, a big city deck. I know this because I just got they fulfilled, and I got them all about a month ago. And
nice.
It's very similar to what was in Pathfinder. It's a rumor on the front that the players can read, or a job, and on the back are some details that kind of give the GM some framework, but it's all system neutral, so you can run them in any campaign. Just
Rumors
something
in the
to think
front,
about.
party in the back.
Exactly. But it's those kind of things I'm sure there are charts online in that if you're having trouble coming up with some of yourself, or just want them to spur yourself on.
Oh, absolutely.
But these are useful tools to have if you're running a job-based campaign, or if you just happen to have the players so they want to start doing some jobs, you need something right here and now. So there's some good stuff out there.
Nice.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, Jerry, this next one's you.
Yep. In terms of scheduling and pacing, scouting is going to basically come between the jobs. One job ends and the next job begins. Somewhere in there, the players are going to start scouting for some new leads, along with their backlog of leads. And this is also where you can do, kind of encourage them to start looking for new things, drop some rumors and that into place. So, which brings us to, okay.
I was going to say, in Forge in the Dark games, right, this is the open phase.
Mm-hmm.
Right? This is the phase before you pick the next job that you're going to take, is like you have these open scenes where you can get this kind of scouting in place.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. All right. So the next one is selection ideally should happen. Now, let me preface this. This will depend on game system, and I'll get to that a little further down. Selection should generally happen at the end of a session or between sessions.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I say this is that this allows the GM to take advantage of the downtime between sessions to do any prep that they feel is necessary.
Yeah.
Okay, so if we just finished up a job and we fenced our goods, and I hand you your credits, and then I say to you guys hey, do you guys know what you want to do? Do you guys know what you want to do next session? And maybe you guys take a half hour and have a quick discussion and be yeah, you know what? We want to take down that spice run that's going on, and be cool, thanks. And then you guys all go home, and then the GM goes home and's all right, time for me to stat up, some smugglers and come up with some things about what's the twist for this going to be.
Yep.
Now, this goes back to another point, and we weren't clear about this earlier, so I'll be clear about it now. Your list of potential jobs can just be that list. It doesn't have to have any more information attached to it until the players choose to focus on it.
Yep.
Right? So it could just literally be, you've heard rumors that, there's a spice run that goes on, that's going on, that's going to take place next month. And then if the players want to invest a little more scouting into it, they can make some rolls, you can give them a little more info, but you don't have to have that written out.
Yep.
Because you'll just be wasting your time. If you write out all of these potential heists, you'll never get to all of them.
Yep.
So it's way better to not have them filled out, then use this downtime between sessions. Maybe you play every 2 weeks, so now you use your downtime to write up what this job's going to be like. If selection happens in the middle of the session, right, the GM's got to move you right into legwork, and possibly without prep. Now, depending on how comfortable the GM is with that, what happens is, and again, this is really going to depend on GMs. GMs who are really good at ad-libbing, especially who are really good at ad-libbing things like missions and jobs, will be able to ad-lib the legwork by giving out complications, come up with security things on the fly and stuff like that. A lot of GMs would prefer Like, I can do that if I had to, but my preference would be to just sit down and figure it out on a quiet Saturday afternoon and bring it to the players at the next session.
Yeah.
Right? Now, everything I just said is less of a deal if the game you're playing has mechanisms for managing legwork and for doing low prep jobs. So yep. Forged in the Dark games do not actually need to stick to that model.
No.
I have run plenty of Forged in the Dark games where you can do selection right in the middle of the game and jump right into the mission because the game is absolutely designed for that.
Mm-hmm.
And it does that great. But if you are playing something more traditional or is not set up for that kind of play, getting it to land in between sessions is a big help to your GM.
Mm-hmm.
So I think like you should do that. But again, if you're playing a game that is actually built for that, and I that was one of Harper's actual design considerations, was not to belabor planning and not to have to do a whole bunch of prep when you go to do a job, and have mechanics that kind of assist with that, right? Like the approach roll, right? I love like we're going to do this kind of job, right? So it's going to need this kind of skill roll. Let's see where we are. Like how well does it start off? And let's just play through from there. That's great. If you're playing that kind of game, ignore this tip. If you are playing something more traditional, again, try to get it to land between sessions.
Yeah. All right. Much like we said in assigning missions, though, make sure that when the players make a selection, that they are clear on what the target and objective are, and that you are as well.
Yeah.
It makes sense that since it's their lead, they know, but just be sure, clarify the risk, so you guys know what you want to do and what your objective is once you get that target. So that you know what to prep and they know what they're going for, so there's much less confusion later on.
Yeah, again, I mean, so many problems arise when this is not clear.
Mm-hmm.
And just because you think like, well, in the mission, like when you give it a mission assignment and the players aren't listening, that's why it's not clear. Trust me, when 5 players are sitting around a table trying to come up with the idea for the job, they may not all reach the same conclusion about what the objective is.
Exactly.
Right? So get that clear. Okay, next tip. Leads, like your list of leads for potential jobs, you can do them and make them very concrete, or you can make them more abstract, like a player's wish list. So you can do this like at a meta level, right? So like if you wanted to do it as very literal, like your players could have a list like, we'd like to steal the Eye of Paris, right? A jewel, not Tom Paris's eye. Although also might be interesting in
that'd be a hell of a heist.
Hell of a heist, steal Tom Paris's eye. You might want to steal the, picture of Lonely, the artwork, Lonely Twilight, or the tiger's 100 kilos of heroin, right? Like very concrete. Those are things the players know about. They're in the world that the players are in, and they're very defined. The other way to do it is you could have the players basically have their leads as an abstract wish list. We'd like to do an art heist. We'd like to steal something high tech.
Mm-hmm.
We'd like to steal something on a train.
Yeah.
Right? And then just during selection, indicate that to the GM, and then the GM can go and prep that. So like maybe the players say at the end of the session, you know what? Let's do a train heist. Train heist sounds fun. And then the GM will be like, cool, I'm gonna go home and get to work on that. And then, we'll open up with you getting the tip on what it is.
And again, that one's a case where you want to make sure you're absolutely clear with your players.
Yeah.
Because the GM goes and preps they're gonna steal a train.
Yeah.
And the players are coming in thinking they're gonna steal something that's on a train.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So good point. Very good point, Bob. If you are doing the abstract one, it would be really good to have an example before you leave.
Yeah.
Like, give me an example of what you're talking about. And then they might be like, oh, there's somebody on the train that's carrying a briefcase full of, interesting documents. And then you can be like, cool, you want to steal something off of a train. And then you can go home and write up whatever it is. Like, you don't have to actually stick to what they want. But yes, Bob, thank you. That is a great difference between a train heist and a train heist.
That literally happened in a Deadlands campaign where I was playing in, where the GM thought we were going to try to steal an item off of the train, and what we actually did is managed to get all the Confederate soldiers into the last car, and then steal the whole train and blow up the bridge with the car on it.
Nice.
So we stole the train and everybody involved. It kept all the civilians alive. But we didn't steal the item, we stole the whole train. And it was a lot of fun. It kind of fit the theme. But yeah, you want to do those kind of things. Make sure that that's why I said, as a GM, make sure that you are clear what the objective and the target are as well. Because players can be very creative in what they think the solution is going to be, and that's part of the fun. So.
Now, all of that said, if the initial idea is we're going to steal this item off the train, and the players come out of their legwork with we're stealing the whole train, that's okay.
Yeah. Sure,
yeah. That's totally okay as well.
They did what? They stole the whole fucking train.
I mean, one of my favorite times, Blue Europa is I think we talked about it last.
Yes, we did.
Right,
yeah.
We talked about Blue Europa. I've run it a number of times. It is a heist. It has been, the chunk of blue ice has been heisted a number of ways. But one group decided that we're going to steal it right from the source. As soon as it comes down from orbit, we're stealing it. And I was like, well, that's not even anywhere in my notes. Fantastic. Let's roll. Still legitimately, it was still within the parameters of what the adventure was about, which was stealing this chunk of blue water.
Mm-hmm.
So I just let it roll. I was like, cool. Tell me how we get started with this heist. Yeah, very cool. Very cool. Okay. Jerry, tell me about fencing.
All right. Fencing should be pretty straightforward and uneventful. Much like mission givers, they should not like or betray the group. Established fences should not do that either. Mission givers should not betray the group. Fences that are established shouldn't betray the group either. Otherwise, the fence is going to be a much bigger deal. And the exception to this is if the players are outside their safety zone or using untrusted fences. For example, the players steer a nuclear warhead and only Zarif the Widowmaker can move it for them. So they have to work with someone they're not used to.
Yeah, and
that
in
becomes
fact,
an adventure itself.
Yeah, and sometimes that's a hint.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you're over your head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're gonna let's steal a nuclear weapon. Cool. How are you gonna fence that? I don't know. Who fences nuclear weapons? Well, the Widowmaker does. Who's that? Well, he's this fence of questionable quality, but really he's the only guy who can move this.
Yeah.
That's a hint, right? And it can be a complication, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you do it up front like that. If I tell you up front that you're going to have to go through the Widowmaker, first of all, the name alone, right?
Yeah.
You have to go through the Widowmaker to move this. Then this is an added complication to your job. If you have your normal fence betray your characters, thanks for the stuff, screw you. It's just like if the mission giver screws you, right? Jerry's had this case, where you're just gonna have to kill your fence.
Yep.
Yeah. If that's a one-time thing, maybe near the end of a campaign, you've been working with this fence for 25 sessions, and then all of a sudden something happens, and he screws you, and your last job is figuring out why the fence screwed you, tracking him down to, something like that.
Sure, that's fine.
But you gotta be careful with those kind of things.
Yeah, fence. I mean, listen, if we're being realistic here, right? A fence does not want to have a reputation of being unreliable or backstabby.
Yeah.
Right? A fence is a service, and they want to be known for ease of use, reliability, and quality.
Yep.
So it's in the fence's best interest to never screw you either.
Yes.
And remember, if this is a game where players spend certain resources for things like a reliable contact or a good fence or something, then that fence should never, ever, ever screw them over.
Exactly.
Players who spend resources to acquire something should never have it taken away from the GM by the GM like that.
If you're spending your John Wick gold coins, for this fence, right?
You got it.
That is set.
Yep.
Like there is a code of conduct.
Yeah.
So yeah, while interactions, while fences should be reliable, they can definitely be fun role-playing opportunities, right? Make your fences, this is like an extra piece of tip here. Make your fences as quirky, as weird, let them have hang-ups.
Give them the best eyebrows in the business.
What's that?
Give them the best eyebrows in the business.
Yeah. And they could even, now that doesn't mean you can't have like
high-end clientele.
Lovity boo.
You can have something like the fence stuff that we're going to get, 1 million credits for this, and now they can only get 500,000. That's okay. They're not screwing the players over. Just something else is happening that can spur the players on to their next scouting job of, we didn't get as much money as we thought, but the fence is still trying to do as much as they can, kind of thing. That's not screwing the players over.
I will give a player tip though. Player tip is to avoid that confusion and getting mad at your fence. You should always meet with your fence before the job.
Yep.
Like you should go have coffee with your fence and just be like, hey, we're looking to move this piece of artwork. What do you think you could get for it?
Yep.
Right? Like, because you don't want to show up going, I got this piece of artwork. We want $1 million for it. And they're like, I'm only going to give you I'm only giving you half.
Yeah.
Yep.
Now, that being said, if you're the Rainmaker and you just got a complication on a roll, you can look at your GM and go, yeah, the fence isn't going to be able to move this for us. There's some, stick yourself with that. That's fine.
If the players want to stick themselves with that, that's perfectly fine. Yeah. Like, don't do it as the GM because it's just that it's that same thing that like once players don't trust an NPC, they will double their planning to have because now they can't just meet with the fence. They have to meet with the fence, but they also need to put up perimeter security in case the fence tries to screw them right there. You need to be able to like gun down the fence. Like it gets super messy and complicated. And like your fence is a service and it should be as good as a service. Yep. Not like Redfoot.
What is Redfoot?
Oh, Bob knows. That's from the Usual Suspects.
Oh, okay.
That guy betrays them. First of all, he gives them the job. So it's a mission. He lies to them about what it is. And then he won't move the items afterwards because he used it to get rid of a rival. Like he totally screwed over the party. And not a stable party to begin with.
Was the Lonely Twilight a game reference as well, or was that just something you made up?
No, I just made that up. I don't know. It could be. It could be a thing. I
wasn't sure. You said it like you said it with such gravitas. I thought, is that something we're supposed to know? Cool.
Is that like you're singing Butler
I was just
from Jack Petriano? No,
yeah. See, now I want to steal the Lonely Twilight now. So
yeah, right. No, that's fine. I just made that up.
All right.
Yeah, the Mr. Johnson, right? Like I think we talked about Chromatic Chameleons bring up Mr. Johnson, and we talked about this last week in mission-based games, right? The Mr. Johnson's it's a Shadowrun trope. I think it's a terrible Shadowrun trope. Because I get the idea that like, oh, you're this cog working outside the system, and the system, like the corpse can screw you at any time, even paying you on the job. But the problem is, once you do that to players, like, and you rattle them like that, like it's fun because you're like, haha, look, there's a trope you didn't see coming. They'll never not see it coming again. Right? Like, plus, it's like Bob said, you may turn your game of jobs, completely, flip it over because now they're going to be like, well, it's time to go pay Mr. Johnson a visit in his office. Yeah. And now we're really just right into the middle of the Usual Suspects, when they go and pay Kobayashi a visit. As he's heading into the elevator.
I've only played Shadowrun a number of times. I've never actually run it. I always assumed from the way that they were always run that Mr. Johnson was an unreliable contact, that you never trusted his mission, that you always expected there was something they weren't telling you, and that the only thing keeping you from killing him was that they would just send a hit squad to kill you afterwards.
Yeah, it's a trope, right? Like it's a trope where like, you did all this hard work and now I'm going to screw you out of the reward. I hate it. Anytime I ran mission-based Cyberpunk, whether it was Shadowrun, Cyberpunk, or whatever, the only time that I made the Mr. Johnson unreliable, and I use Mr. only in the definition because it easily can be any gender.
Yeah.
But the only way I did that is if the entire mission, from the time you got it all the way through, you knew there was something wrong with this contact.
Yeah.
Like it was foreshadowing. Like when you set up the job, you were like, we're taking this job, but there's something seriously wrong with this person. Therefore, when they screw you at the end, you're like, see, we already knew you were terrible. We already planned for this. Which is cool because that's competency porn, right? So that's, but yeah, I don't like doing it where everything on the job seems level. And then it's just like, haha, this is the trope. I'm not paying you for all this work. And now you're shot up. You're out of equipment. You can't move this item. And I screwed you out of money because that's the trope of the game. It's a shitty trope.
Yeah.
Unless you do it once and never do it again.
All right.
Okay.
Cool. With that said, that's our overview of jobs. We're going to head over to the chat room and check in with them. Hello, Jason. But first, Bob's going to tell us about another show on the Misdirected Mark Network.
Yeah, we've got this little show called Zhanghu Hustle. Train alongside fellow students Eric Farmer and Eli Kurtz in Zhanghu Hustle. Eric and Eli make their kung fu stronger by watching wuxia films, then discussing how to apply their observations to game design. They will occasionally do watch parties where they watch a film and discuss it, Twitter, in their Twitter feeds and whatnot. Check it out. Good show. I think you'll find it entertaining and useful. So, the chat room. Yeah, Chromatic Chameleon also had an interesting thought. A job campaign where the players are the fence.
Yep.
That's an interesting idea.
Yeah.
You could do some interesting things with that, I think.
Mm-hmm. Do a lot of fun stuff with that. Places where the players have to find. The players are going to have to find sources. They're going to end up with stuff they don't want. There are going to be spots where somebody comes looking for something that they've got. Maybe they end up with something that they are mistaken on what they have. There's a whole bunch of options there for what to do if the players are a fence. I
think it would also make a pretty baller card game. Like you play a fence and you've got like either a tableau of items that are out there that you're going to try to buy up and then move, or or specifically you're recruiting
a certain amount of stuff before the heat comes down on you.
Yep.
Exactly. Right. And then you're trying to make money, but like based on based on market fluctuations or, I know what it is. Okay. So here it is. On one side of the deck, you are building up your list of contacts, right?
Yep.
People who have both money and interests in, like, somebody has an interest in artwork, somebody has an interest in tech, cars, whatever. And then there's like a tableau of things that are being stolen. And you're using your own resources to buy up those cards in hopes that you can then get out these contacts so that you can then put the cards down and collect your money and keep going.
Well, I know what I'm working on coming up.
Yeah, that seems like a fun, that seems like a totally fun way to do it. And then, each of the contact cards are, you've got like some pretty standard ones, right? Like these are just like some, hardcore criminals. Like this criminal loves cars. Like he's always going to pay premium on a car if you've got, a stolen car to sell. But then like you have like some really eccentric ones. Mm-hmm. Like they'll pay a ridiculous amount of money for like something. You just kind of like wait, like you have them in your hand waiting for something like that to pop up on the, on the table. Like Elvis's Cadillac pops up and you're like, oh, the car guy, yes, he would pay a premium, but I have like, the Elvis freak who will like buy you like any memorabilia
They get into a bidding war, which just drags everything out, and you're like, I got the heat coming down on me. I need one of you guys.
Well, that'd be even better if you had two characters. If you had two characters that both had like a high rating in the same thing, then you get more money because they start a bidding war. You play one off the other out of your contacts, and you get more money for having two high-end car guys.
Yep.
I'm just like designing this thing as we're sitting here.
Yeah.
We are going to have some more conversations about that. I love design.
Yeah, we're going to talk about this afterwards.
All right.
Sure, that's fine.
Yep.
It's a sign that the pandemic is slightly receding. That some amount of my game creativity
Things are returning to
right?
normal. The swans are returning to Capistrano.
Correct. Like a slightly like
Flowers.
even after our session of Once More Into the Void, all of a sudden like Senda and I had like ideas for ditch lily stuff, and I haven't done that in a year plus. So it's good. It's good. What else going on in the chat room?
What else? We had Jared was talking about an Edge of the Empire adventure called Jewel of Yavin. It has the PCs getting hired to steal a thing. And each phase of the overall job, you have an NPC pointing them towards something, but they can still address the phases with their own plans. So the PCs have the autonomy to do the stuff, which is cool.
I mean, that's technically mission based, but obviously because we're talking, we've been talking about the overlap here, between these two. Yeah, it totally makes sense. And really, right? So we just talked about this before, that we are splitting hairs between doing jobs and missions.
Yeah.
But it's really like where it comes from.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you guys can hear that. Like, can you hear my graceful daughter stomping through the...
Very, very faintly, I thought I heard something. Yeah.
Oh, good. I'm glad that my mic isn't picking that up. Like, she's not that big, and yet she, she cannot sneak up on anything.
She has a 0 in stealth.
Oh, she's like a -2 in stealth. Like, she will fail. And I don't mean -2 like D20. I mean like -2 in fate.
She rolls with disadvantage.
Yeah.
Jared also had a Star Wars sandbox where the PCs were Inquisitors, an Imperial pilot, and an experimental droid. And they were sent into a sector to root out corruption, where some of the jobs were meant to tempt them to turn to the light side and join the rebellion. But instead of taking jobs, the Hutt Inquisitor found out who was bribing the local moth, got on their payroll, and then called it a day. And that's where the players can totally derail an idea.
Yep. And you still have fun with it.
Yeah, it's it's tough. I mean, like I guess a few years ago I would have totally been into that idea of playing Imperial Inquisitors in an RPG, but like and that goes to the same way that I used to love running Corporation. But if the last few years have done anything to me, particularly radicalized me, like I can't play games that support like where you're the more fascist power structure.
Yeah.
Like if the goal of the game is to convert, then I'm like, okay, I could play that. But if the, and since Jason's in the room, if the situation of the game is to go root out Imperial traitors and have them hauled off, imprisoned, or killed, like I can't play. Like I couldn't run or play that at this point. Like I am not in a place where that is I'm not in a place where that is any fun to me at all.
Yeah.
Right.
And I for that I can just say like thanks 2020.
Yeah.
Like thanks.
Yep.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Right.
In 2014, I probably could have run that.
Yeah, I probably would have played that in 2014.
Yeah.
Sure. 2014
I probably could have run it. 20 so basically look, 45 ruined that for me. I don't know how long it'll be till I think I could play like bad guys or questionable characters again, thanks to 45. Like that is
I could probably see my way to being a gray hat at some point, depending on the game. But
I mean, I think I could go with Mercenary with Heart of Gold.
Yeah,
like Jane. Okay. Like I think I could get down to like Jane, right? Like I don't think I could get any worse. Yeah, I don't know. It's tough. That like these last couple of years had a distinct effect on what I'm comfortable playing.
Yep.
Right.
Like
Okay.
I know if we're like I know when we go to play Twilight 2000, the new one, like you guys have to be good.
Yeah.
Like
Of course.
yeah, like we can't be playing like, well, we're here trapped in Poland, let's set up our own, warlord fiefdom. Like no, it's got to be like, well, we're trapped in Poland, we're setting up our own collective.
Yep.
Like-
Free the oppressed.
Exactly. Yeah, no.
All right.
Cool.
We should
Moving
run
on.
back into the second half of the segment, which is where we do our roundtable to share our thoughts about job-based adventures and campaigns, starting with the following question.
Sure. What is your favorite thing about job-based adventures or campaigns?
I just like the idea that it's going to be a chance for the players to use multiple skills and approaches to problem solving. Pretty much the same thing I like about mission. That you're going to have something that is fairly unexpected. The players are going to be giving you some ideas, and they're going to be surprising you. And it's going to be a chance to... Jobs are always a chance to take the adventure away from whatever the standard adventure is for that week. The players are going to tell you what they want to do, and that's part of the fun of it. You're going to suddenly find out that they've all decided that they want to steal this thing, or they want to go to this place, or they want to accomplish this goal, and that's going to be something new. That's new and fun for the GM. So that's what I like most, is that job-based adventures give us a chance to try different adventures, different stories, and the like. So, all right, Bob?
Cool. For me, I think it's that tension of wondering if the plan is going to go off successfully or not, whether or not there's any complications on it. Like the planning itself, especially if it's a game that doesn't mechanize the plan, like Forged in the Dark. If you got to sit and just make up the plan yourself, those are kind of a slog. But once you have the plan and you're ready to execute, you get that tension and that excitement building up. Like, okay, is this going to work? Are we going to make it through this? Are we going to get the objective? And then when the twist happens, it ramps everything up. And that's the part that I enjoy about those.
There we go.
What about you, Phil?
For me, I really love the thing I love about jobs is putting the scouting and selection into the player's hands. I like that sandbox feel, right? So I like having a group that is looking at a field of potential targets and deciding what job they want to do. And what I really like about it is I like the challenge that it presents me, because I'm not setting up one job after another, right? Like if we're doing a mission-based thing, like I know that, we're going to do this mission, then we're doing this mission, then we're doing this mission, because I'm just going to give them to you.
Yeah.
When we're doing a job, like if we do it the way we were talking about with the advice, and again, we're not playing like a Forged in Dark game where we can do selection right in the middle of a game, but we're doing selection at the end. We get to the end of a session and I'm like, cool. What do you guys want to do next week? And you're like, train heist. And I wasn't even like remotely thinking we were going to do train heist.
Yeah.
So now I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Like I got some work to do. Because I like that challenge. Like now I need it's a creative constraint, right? I need to now go plan a heist, but I need to go put it on a train.
Yep.
And then and then everything I have to do about that is like, okay, cool. Well, how do I do security on a train? Right? What's my twist going to be on the train? All of those things. Like I got to work through all of those things in between sessions. And to me, that's like hellishly fun.
Yeah.
For me, because a lot of what I get in my enjoyment out of GMing is being surprised by my players. So, job-based games give me that chance to have no idea what they're going to pick and then have to go and deal with it. Yeah,
you get a completely different set of parameters by which you have to decide what kind of complications you're going to throw in their way, and that makes it vary greatly. But it gives you, like you said, the creative constraint. It's not the whole world. It's that little chunk, and you're like, ooh, now I got to design inside this box. How can I make this interesting?
And that's why I like those really abstract ones. Like we don't need to name all the things. Like if you just the players can wish list them, right? Like I totally want to do we want to rob a plane while it's in the sky. Yeah. Well, holy shit. Okay. cool, because that's got its own whole set of issues.
Yeah.
Mhm.
How are you getting on the plane?
Yeah.
How are you getting weapons on the plane? How are you getting off the plane? Right? Like that's great. And for me, that's like a huge challenge because I like designing missions and jobs. So for me, being challenged with a weird setting or an object or whatever is that gets that for me gets the creative juices going.
And from the flip side perspective of that, I like the abstract stuff too, because then there's still some amount of surprise for the player side as well. Where you're like, we want to do an art heist. Okay, that's great. An art heist could be steal this painting off the wall in this museum or from this person's private collection. Or it could be like, this rich dude with a shit ton of money knows you guys will do anything. Steal the statue of David.
Right, exactly, right?
What just happened here?
Art heist winds up with a really large, and that's, which is fantastic because how you steal a painting off the wall versus how you steal like a 1-ton statue, and how you move it, like all of those things, exactly. So that's actually and then for me as a GM, that's a really cool interplay because you guys said art heist. Then I come back with cool. I want you to steal the Code of Hammurabi from the Louvre, right? Like, by the way, if you are a old school Civilization player, then you remember the Code of Hammurabi from the original Civ game. There's a copy of it in the Louvre, and it is a big piece of stone with it all carved into it. By the way, if you did play old school Civ, the Code of Hammurabi is what lets you have laws. That's you have to find that wonder. But anyway, if you have to steal the Code of Hammurabi, which is again the Statue of David problem.
Yeah.
Now, so you gave me the art heist. I come back with the Code of Hammurabi. You're like, holy shit, we got to steal this thing. Now you guys start working on your plan, and I'm sitting listening to it, going, okay. Cool. Right. And then I'm totally surprised, like, oh, that's how you're going to steal it. Right. Like, and so it becomes this really fun, back and forth of kind of surprising each other.
Mm-hmm.
And that I love that.
Yeah.
In fact, you just did it to me. Not necessarily as a job, but you did it to me on Sunday. I totally thought the encounter that we were going to have in Forbidden Lands was going to be a bloodbath, and instead you negotiated your way out of it.
The bloodthirsty dwarf with the killer axe was like, no, you can go.
Yeah, I was like,
what now?
Okay, we're doing. Yeah, I was like, oh, we're going to do this. I was like, okay, we'll talk about that we'll talk about that when we get down to the community corner. But so much of my GMing is about wanting to be surprised. So for me, that's really where jobs are exciting.
Yes. All right, so that should bring us to question 2.
Are there any challenges to running or playing in job-based adventures or campaigns?
For me, it would be burning out on the sameness. Because when you have this kind of campaign, plan job, execute job, deal with the heat, downtime, repeat, you run the risk of it starting to become stale. Even though the stuff that you're doing is different each time, there's a sameness that starts to get in there, and it can become a grind. That's why you need good role playing mixed in with it. You need some different types of twists that, complications that have you having to think outside the box for creative answers. The whole lather, rinse, repeat thing could potentially get stale. And luckily in the games that I've played, we've had really good players and really good GMs that kept it fresh, and a lot of good stories going on. So the grind didn't set in, but I think it's potential. It's there.
Yeah, I think especially if you're playing a Forged in the Dark game, if you are underplaying that open scene, like that open piece at the beginning, and you are just kind of constantly pushing for jobs and just playing, the job, I don't even remember all the terms now. You're playing the job, the heat, the aftermath, like your downtime and all of that. Mm-hmm. Like, I think that's good, but it's the open section, that first section, where you can do all the different things, have, subplots, have interactions, interactions with NPCs, bring up drama, relationships, things like that. Forged in the Dark games, when you get into the job part, are a little more mechanized. They're still pretty freeform, right? Like, I mean, they're not on rails by any stretch of the imagination, but there are specific mechanics for how one starts the job and what you can do during it and all. And then when you come out of it, your downtime stuff, like heat and downtime stuff, is a lot more rigid. So it's that first part that, like, really you got to inject something interesting into. At least that's my take. That's been my take for running them.
Yeah.
Cool. Question. Oh, is it me?
It's you.
My biggest challenge, GMing job-based games, is chasing the curve, which I believe we did a few episodes ago. Really, it's about, for me, it's making each job interesting without ridiculously escalating the challenges. Mm-hmm. Like, and this was hard when we played our heist game in D20 Modern. This was tricky because D20 Modern is a level progression game. Yep. So you progressively get better. And so DCs had to go up and more combatants had to go in. Whereas something that's a little harder to move up in numbers like Fate, it could have done a much better job of keeping that more level. But yeah, chasing the curve, which is also like, we talked about this, like, again, in a whole episode, but like, if you keep trying to outdo yourself with each heist location, after like a couple of heists, it's going to get really weird.
You end up with the Fast and the Furious.
Yeah, which is fine for the Fast and Furious, right? Like, but like at some point you're like on a space shuttle, like trying to steal like part of a like satellite, and I don't know what you do after that, right? Like I don't know like what's next.
We're going to steal the moon.
Mm-hmm. If one of the things that Leverage was really good at was that none of the curve was pretty level on what they were going to, like, what they stole was different, but the amount of opposition and stuff pretty much stayed the same.
I'm sorry. Now that you talk about, what are we going to steal next? I thought we're going to steal the Declaration of Independence. Now I want to see a National Treasure Fast and the Furious mashup.
Oh my god! I've been jonesing for a third National Treasure movie for so long. We're not going to get it.
I've still never seen the second one.
The second one's fun. It's not as good as the first one, I think, but the scuttlebutt is, and sorry to diverge, but it's
no, I know what you're going with.
The scuttlebutt is we're getting a National Treasure Disney Plus series.
Yep.
And that I'm all in for. It won't be Nicolas Cage. It'll be a whole new cast because I'm sure they want to go with somebody younger. And
at this point,
will do anything for money. So.
Yeah.
At this point, Disney Plus can do. Disney Plus has earned enough credit with me. Like, just throw it out there. I'll throw it out there. I'll take a look.
Yeah.
Let's see what you got.
I wouldn't discount the fact that Nicolas Cage will show up because Nicolas Cage still needs money. So they might be able to convince him to come on to one of those things.
We'll work for money. Like that's
Yep. All right, Jerry, finish up question 2 for us.
All right, my big challenge is trying to keep everybody involved. In storytelling games, it's a little easier. In games that are more traditional or mechanical, there are some characters that are just designed well for job-based games, and some that are less skilled for your standard jobs, but still usable. And the trick is trying to keep them all involved. In games where characters are basically one-trick ponies, you have to remember to keep finding ways to let them use their one trick, unless you've got good role players. Obviously, as always, the exception is you're going to have some players that can just make anything into something. But in traditional games, especially if you're doing a con game, making sure that everybody can be involved in the job itself. And that's not always easy to do, especially if you've got jobs that one or two players at the table are always coming up with the jobs. You might have to make sure to drag the other players into it a little bit more actively, because it's not their job all the time. So, but there are good ways to do that.
And I'll say this, right? So if you're doing this as a con game, you have control of a few things. One, if you're doing this as a con game, my recommendation is do a mission, not a job. Right? Have a benefactor hire the characters to go steal this thing up front, because that just streamlines getting into it, right? Like that just takes away the selection piece, which in a con game you want to get rid of because you want to get them like into the action. And two, if it's a con game and you're making pre-gens, well, then you made pre-gens that can handle like you make sure that your job has something for every pre-gen.
I mean, if you're putting in the effort to do pre-gens for a con game for something like this, you could put in a little more effort if you felt like it, and come up with, say, 3 selections that you have enough planning for, and that all 3, the characters are capable of being spotlighted in each one, and then they still get the illusion of they don't. It's not an illusion. They still get the choice.
It's not an illusion. It's a choice.
It's a real choice. But it still gives you that.
And maybe next year we'll do a whole thing again about writing adventures for cons and stuff like that. I feel like it won't be as necessary this year, but maybe next year we'll.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and also again, playing this. Part of this also comes down to playing it when you end up in a campaign where some characters are more fit for the adventure than others, as in a con game. It's easier in a campaign where you can change your characters more.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's the challenge. Just making sure that you keep everybody involved, and that's kind of the rule for all kinds of games. But in jobs, it's even more importantly because they might not be the same standard kind of game that players came to the table for. So, okay.
Yeah, and I think this is where like niche, like if you're doing a job game, this is where things like I think the terminology from Leverage is great, right? Like hacker, hitter, grifter, mastermind, right? Like, do you have these things filled in your game, like in some form, right? And then do you have backups like who's the secondary hitter, who's the that kind of thing.
And in the new show with the rebooted Leverage, they have a new.
Wait till we get to the conversation corner. I'm talking about it. Oh my God, it was so good.
All right, so let's hit question. Let's hit question 3. What is your secret sauce when running job-based adventures or campaigns?
Heist mechanic. I talked about them last week. I'm going to follow back on these again. I like the heist mechanics that I pulled out of a couple different games. I've said before, I think that the Savage Lankmar has a really good one where once the players decide what they're going to do, you give them 5 minutes to come up with their plan or whatever amount of time you want to do. Then you have them role-play their scouting part of it. When they role-play their scouting part of it, you have them make skill tests or rolls or whatever it is, draw cards. And for every success and extra success, they get a heist bonus token. And then once the game starts, once they start pulling off their job, you let them spend those tokens to get rerolls or to get narrative control or do a flashback, whatever. But it gives them a chance to make that job become, again, like a heist or whatever it's going to be. It could be a robbery, a prison break, stealing water from an airship, trying to, get away with a new starship, whatever you like. I like the heist mechanics. I think they work really well. And because the players can choose whatever skill they want and then narrate how they're going to use that to get information, that again drags the players back in. And even if it's a game that doesn't have skills, you can still do that by just having the players make some rolls off of whatever they think is best. And it'll tend to push the players to do a lot of fun role-playing encounters, followed by some really fun mechanical effects that let them take narrative control, get and move that heist so it feels more like an Ocean's 11 or a Leverage or any one of the numerous, I can't remember what one was last year with the Channing Tatum that was the redneck heist movie, but all those kind of things that are a lot of fun. Which, by the way, Phil, if you still haven't seen the one with Channing Tatum, Adam Driver, and James Bond, I can't remember his name.
I haven't
Daniel
yet.
Craig?
I haven't yet.
Oh, that movie's Daniel Craig. It once it gets rolling, it's a great heist movie. You'll enjoy it. So, do watch party. I think it's on Netflix. All right, so that's my thing. Phil, what's your secret sauce?
The object. I love coming up with really interesting things to steal. The weirder, the better. I just like for me, it can never just be like a piece of art. Like I will go out of my way to come up with something interesting. Like and not that this one was a job, this one was more of a heist or more of a mission, but for that Sprawl game, like the most expensive bottle of whiskey, right, being kept in an orbital that was shuttled down to Earth, you know, to be sipped during celebrations. Elvis's Cadillac was once an object for a heist. I think in our in the reboot of our heist, not a reboot, we had a one-shot heist game.
Yep.
Elvis's Cadillac was
our heist one last job game.
Yes,
that's cool.
A chunk of blue ice, right? Like that's like chunk of blue ice is a huge pain in the ass to steal. It's big. It's ice. It's gonna melt, and two, it's big and heavy. In fact, if I remember correctly, in my notes for Blue Europa, I actually did the extra legwork and figured out how much that chunk of ice weighed, because players get really quick on like, well, we can just grab it. And I'm like, by the way, this chunk of ice weighs like 1.2 tons. Mm-hmm. Right? Which changes the dynamics of how you steal something like that big. But I like those things, right? I like coming up with interesting and weird items. I kind of love when players look and they're like, what the fuck? Like, that's like, we're stealing that? Mm-hmm. And I'll be like, just like smugly, like, very proud of myself that I came up with something weird. Yeah, for me, that's fun. I like, stealing money's boring. Stealing other people's drugs is only fun if, those people are going to come after you. So, if we're just going to steal objects, like, I want it to be a little weird.
That
or at
guy's
least memorable.
Eyeball.
What's that?
That guy's eyeball.
Yeah, yes. I'm going to need that guy's eye.
Oh, I'm totally getting that arm.
Somebody did a meme where, you know what? I can't. It'll spoil.
Mm-hmm.
It'll spoil the current. Let's just say there's a meme where Rocket discovers something.
Yep.
And gets super excited.
Yep.
You're good. You're with me.
All right. I think we're done with that question.
I think we are as well.
So that was our discussion about job-based adventures.
Yeah, we hope next time you're running jobs, that this advice will be of some help.
We're now going to check in with the chat room one more time before we head off to the conversation corner. Yeah, we had an amusing exchange when you mentioned Hammurabi. Andy, I believe, spelled it hammer, Hammer, and then corrected it to, nope, wait, Hammur. And I said, Hammurabi, that's a totally different, that's like MC Hammer, where you try to steal that.
The code of Hammurabi.
The code of Hammurabi, you try to steal it and he pops out and goes, can't touch this.
I got to tell you, the Code of Hammurabi could have been an album in 1989.
Yes, it could.
Yeah. I'm telling you, MC Hammurabi is going to have to be a character now.
Yes.
I got to tell you, like, look, I know, like, my 80s self was like a little like, oh, this MC Hammer guy. But over time, like, I love those songs. Like, those songs aged very well for me. Just like how Mbop from Hanson winds up being less annoying as I'm older than when it first came out. I actually
never found it annoying.
Yeah. I was impressed because they were on some, I can't remember what show they were on. They were on some talk show. And the three of them came out. And the one kid had the guitar, the other two just stood there. And they did the entire song using just a guitar and their bodies to play all the instruments.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, okay.
They're super talented. Yeah.
It's a catchy song.
Yeah.
I've got to say, I as I've gotten older, both Ice Baby and Ninja Rap have both grown on me way too much.
Dude, I love. All right, so look, once again, right? So I scoffed at this when I was in college, but Ice Baby, as like now in nostalgic purposes, I'm fine. I like that song.
It's catchy. There's no question about it.
It's catchy, and I can recite more of it than I like.
Yeah.
I clearly retained more of it from the 90s than I thought I did.
Yeah.
And I gotta say, unlike most musicians, he actually went out and bought the rights to sample Under Pressure for that song from Queen.
No. He got sued and went out and bought the rights.
Yes.
His lawsuit was his lawsuit helped establish some of the the current laws about sampling.
Yeah. I would love to see sampling go away entirely. I really would.
I'm all right. I'm all right with sampling. I think it needs a certain amount of
or if you're going to sample, you should have to pay the artists a heap load of money for that, because they still don't. But nothing more annoying than when you're like, oh, I like this song. Oh crap, it's Kid Rock. That kind of thing.
Well, I mean, crap, it's Kid Rock is definitely a problem.
Well, yeah. But yeah,
you talk about 90s disappointments.
Yes.
I'm very unhappy. There were a number of Kid Rock songs I liked that now I'm just like, well, this is all in the garbage. Like,
yep.
We're all done here.
All right, as we're straying over that line into the political
take us to the
again,
other place.
We're going to jump on over into the conversation corner with a little bit of this.
Now I heard that fine.
Yeah. And you heard the other one, the definition.
I did. I don't know what happened. Like sometimes if you talk and the audio's going, it picks you over the audio. And for whatever reason, like I just didn't, like something either picked up your mic or whatever. I just did not hear it, and I was like,
I didn't either.
And you didn't really give me a hard cue in.
Yeah,
so I was a little lost.
I'll be better next time.
That's okay. The backup is just the hard cue to tell me to go, because I can just make it up.
Yeah,
I can make it up. I know what it sounds like.
All right, so conversation corner. So I mentioned earlier I had to add this in because I think it's funny. But I added earlier that the NFL did a thing with Star Wars where they've got merch now, and on Good Morning Football they had everybody got to pick a team that they wanted the shirt for, and the one guy picked the New York Jets, but with the Empire stuff on it because he thinks the Jets are going to be people's nightmares this season, like whatever. But they did a bit on that show, on that episode, where they said now because the draft was just done for the NFL. It said, if you were drafting right now any Star Wars character, like, who would you pick number one overall? And honestly, I don't remember who went number one overall, but number two overall was Chewbacca. And when Nate Burleson was talking about why he would want to pick Chewbacca, he finished with, and obviously he's got a great shot at being Wookiee of the Year.
Wah, wah.
Wah, wah.
That's great. That's great. That's some
jokes.
serious dad joke quality right there.
Good.
All they needed was the horn in the banner. Wah, wah.
Yeah.
I'll let Phil talk
Good
about
for
this
them.
one more, but we played once more Into the Void. And that is an interesting game that we're having some fun with. The bits that we put together and the characters that we came up with and the story we're telling, very interesting stuff. Having fun with it and looking forward to where we go with the rest of it and see, how it turns out. Interesting game, a lot of fun. I like the concept a lot. It's a very clever thing.
Yeah.
I am, cough, cough, as of this afternoon, I am on the hook to Marvel United's Kickstarter for the X-Men version for a large quantity of money.
Is that the tabletop game?
That's the tabletop board game with all the miniatures.
Okay.
Yeah, the first game that they came out with had a shit ton of characters and a lot of expansions and all that stuff. And I put, I want to say it was like $280 into it. This one, it's larger than that.
Oh boy, goodness.
All the stuff that they came out with, it's like, oh, I want that. Oh, I want that expansion. I'm like, I should just buy the whole fucking thing and be done with it. I've got the disposable income right now. I'm like, damn it. I'm like, that's just, So yeah, that's but they're coming out with a Fantastic Four expansion inside the X-Men version of the game. So I was like, oh, I gotta have that. And the sculpt for the Human Torch is awesome. It's all molded out of the yellowy orange plastic. Anyhow, so that was the thing. The Bad Batch dropped today because it's May the 4th. Dave Filoni should be allowed to do whatever he wants with the Star Wars universe. Just let him go. Say, Dave, go, do your thing, because Dave Filoni's killing it. It's great. 75-minute first episode, 16-episode first season, and they come out of the gate hot, and it doesn't go where you think it's going to go.
No!
There's a character in it that you didn't expect to see, which I hope we see more of, but I don't know. Mm-hmm. Good stuff. Highly recommended if you're a Clone Wars fan, if you like the Bad Batch from those episodes. Oh, and the Bad Batch. Ugh. I told myself years ago, I don't need no damn Funko Pops. I'm not really fond of the Funko Pop design with the big heads. Then they come out with a 10-inch Godzilla Funko Pop, and I'm like, ooh, that looks cool. So I ordered it. So my first Funko Pop is still on its way. It got pushed back from April to June or July, which I'm pissed about. I want it.
So
now,
let me ask you, is there a I did not watch Rebels, and I watched Clone Wars like when it first came out and did not watch all the way through it. Can I just jump into the Bad Batch, or am I out?
You can jump in. If you wanna have a little bit more going in, you can watch like less than a handful of episodes that highlights the Bad Batch from Clone Wars.
And it's probably worth watching the last. What is it? Is it the first couple episodes, or the last couple episodes? The first couple episodes of season 8. But you don't. All you really need to know about the Bad Batch is that there are a bunch of clones who, basically mutated badly, and so each of them is a little different.
Yeah.
I know the premise of it.
Yeah.
I'm just.
And that's everything else you need to know. Like, hey, this character is mad at us because of what we did on this mission where we did X. I mean, they do a really good job of not gatekeeping. Like, a character comes in, it's important, and with one or two exceptions. But anything that you need to know is there. There's a few like, ooh, I know that cool thing, but it's not going to have an effect on the rest of the story. Yeah. But everything else is going to be, this character is here, and they're important because of X, Y, and Z. They actually spell it right out for you for people that are just jumping in today. So it's really good.
Yeah,
Jason's saying I should just... looks like season 7, episodes 1 through 4.
Yeah. And that what that'll do for you is it'll give you the full experience of those characters, and maybe get you liking one character more than another, or give you like a favorite or something like that going into the series. But yeah, you can just pick up the series without having seen the Clone Wars at all, and you'll be fine. So that was good. And then of course, recovering from another instance in Valheim of let's do something stupid. Where we ended up getting killed, and now we have no gear to go and rescue it. Like, sometimes when you get killed in Valheim, you can just, in your loincloth, you run out of wherever you respawn, you run up the coast or whatever to the little totem that it builds with all your gear in it. You have a death totem. And you just run up to it and you say, give me all my stuff back, and then you gear up, and hopefully you have time to put your armor on before something comes and tries to kill you. Yeah. But in this case, we are in a position where we can't just walk over. We're like across a small body of water. And you have to have enough stamina to be able to swim it, which we won't with no gear and no food and everything like that. And that means that we have to have the equipment to build a boat to get over there. And like, it adds a whole level of complexity. So, so I've been, taking some time, because I had the opportunity to be in the game before they did again. And I've been taking the opportunity to go and gather resources so that we can at least have something to fill our bellies and defend ourselves should we run into something on the way, and have enough to build a raft to go over and try and get our corpses back. But because we did something dumb.
What's amazing is building a raft is so easy, and we had the resources to build a raft instead of... We could have just built a raft and done that, but we decided to try something stupid.
Yeah.
Because we do.
Yeah. All right, Jerry, what about you?
All my other RPGs got canceled this week, so the only one I played this week was Once More Into the Void, and I really enjoyed playing it. I really think that the without going into an amazing amount of detail, I liked the character introductions, I like the character archetypes and frameworks, I like how you build your characters, I like how the character generation is kind of cooperative, and I like the game we played so far. I really enjoyed all of it, and I'm really having a good time with it. This week I was just, for some reason, I was burnt out on Voyager. I did not watch a single episode before this week's watch party. The Nevers on HBO is still going strong. Coupling is still fun. Like I said, last week I got to teach, and it was a lot of fun. It was normally when I teach this week-long class for the state, I have timestamps on all of my notes, so I know where I'm supposed to be every day. And generally, days 1 and 2 are long and floggy, and it's not unusual for me to be behind by half an hour on day 1 and by an hour or so on day 2, because people ask questions, you need to give more examples, that sort of thing. I was ahead of schedule every day this week, and it was last week it was a lot of fun, but it was odd to be like, I have to teach until 12:30 because I have to have a certain number of hours, and by Friday at like 9:30 I was like, we could be done now unless I find a way to stretch this out. So it was a lot of fun. And then lastly, Valheim. Bob was stupid and died. I was stupid twice. And I'm beginning to see what the factor is, because I'll be hanging out with Chris online. We're like, we should try doing that. That might be stupid. Yeah, it probably is stupid. We should do it anyway. And we died. We died the first time, and then we had to get Bob, and Bob acted as Overwatch while we went out and got our bodies back. And then we were stupid a second time and died. Because we did something, we literally stood and said, that looks like it's too far to swim. Yeah, we're probably going to die if we try it. All right, let's do it. It's fun. It's a lot of fun. It's a great group-oriented game. And it gave us a chance to try something new, which is, kind of start over from scratch with all of our skills, which is kind of interesting. So it's a lot of fun. I'm enjoying Valheim. I'm looking forward to playing it again. And I really like the camaraderie and teamwork that goes into it. So that was me. Phil?
Yeah. I don't know. I didn't play any Minecraft this past week. I'm not sure why. Like, I don't know. I just wasn't feeling it. So I didn't play it. I probably should, but I didn't. So there's that. The new Leverage Reloaded trailer dropped. It's amazing if you're a fan of Leverage, and I was a huge fan of Leverage. It's great. You should go look it up on YouTube. It looks absolutely fantastic. Most of the cast, except for one, comes back. And the replacement, they add 2 new people to the cast. And one, I love that they created 2 new roles, the Fixer and the Maker, which I think are fantastic.
Yep.
The people that are playing them, I absolutely love. They're going to have a actress play Hardison's sister, which I think is great. Younger sister. She's the Maker. And Noah Wiley from ER.
Yeah.
And the Librarians, right? I think he was Noah Wiley, most known for being Dr. Carter on ER, is going to play the Fixer. And I love Noah Wiley. So I was very excited to see him. But then to see Sophie and Hardison and Parker and I can't remember his name, the hitter.
Oh, God.
Elliot. Just to see them all again, and the interaction.
Yep.
This was a no-brainer for me. I love that show to begin with, and if they're just going to make new ones with the same premise, I'm right back in. That's right back in, right where I left off. Another one, which Bob, go ahead.
We were on the chat room. We're joking about my comment about coupling. The character who plays Sophie is one of the main is like the lead character for coupling as well.
She's fantastic.
Yeah, Gina Bellman's hilarious. So go ahead, back to your thing.
Yeah, a couple of announcements. A whole lot of announcements coming out of Marvel this week that were exciting. The 2 that I'll highlight is Wakanda Forever.
Yep.
Which will be the title for Black Panther 2, which I'm very excited about, because the more they show Wakanda, I think just the more exciting that is. It was one of my favorite parts of original Black Panther, was seeing was actually seeing Wakanda.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely down for that. And the other one, which I just thought was fantastic as well, is Captain Marvel 2, The Marvels.
Yep.
And it's going to encompass Carol Danvers, Monica Rambeau as Photon, and Ms. Marvel, Kamala Khan, right? Like and also this week we saw Kamala Khan in her costume, because they had stills from the show, from her show, and now they're all going to be in the movie together. And I am all about this. I loved Photon in WandaVision, and was hopeful I was pretty sure we'd see her again in the MCU, but I'm even more excited that she's like folded right in for Captain Marvel 2. That's fantastic. And I love the whole idea of it, right? They've all had the name. I don't know. I don't know. I don't really need to know much more. I'm in. Like, you could show me trailers, but at this point, it's like you're just previewing the movie for me. You're not selling me. Sold. I was sold when I saw the logo.
The other thing about that announcement of those two titles came at the end of a clip that was narrated by Stan Lee.
Oh, that clip.
Oh, man. So good. So good.
Yeah, the clip is fantastic.
We also got our first look at the Eternals.
Yeah, the first look at the Eternals. I'm actually going to go. There was another run of the Eternals that just popped up in Marvel Unlimited. The Eternals is I went back and read 10 or 15 issues of the original Eternals, like from the early 70s or something.
Some wacky shit.
That's some wacky shit. And the reason I was down for it is that's all Kirby.
Yeah, that's Kirby stuff. Yeah.
And it's all weird ass Kirby stuff. And I know there's a Neil Gaiman run, which I flagged, but I never read. And then now there's like a new run. I at some point have to kind of get schooled up on my Eternals. Like I don't really know enough, and I'm not sure. Like, look, it's Marvel. I'm excited. The director they got is a Oscar award-winning director. Like, she just won this year an Oscar. I don't think the MCU is going to do a bad job on it. I just don't really know anything about the Eternals. Like, I want to get schooled up a little in preparation. But everything in that Marvel thing, like, I mean, they just showed you like a whole shit ton of titles with dates that they're coming out and clips of Shang-Chi. Like, it's all good. It's so good. Yeah, so good. Yes, and then ended with the 4 for Fantastic Four, right? Because all of that.
Because what better place to bring in the Fantastic Four than in Phase 4?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, not only like anchor him in Phase 4. Like I said, I'm hoping, my fingers crossed, that casting takes some liberties with the casting for Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
I don't think they have to be white people.
They don't have to be four white people.
I think let the MCU do what they do best, and like I just trust their casting to begin with.
I mean, right now, the current frontrunner still, according to Scuttlebutt, for Doctor Doom is Giancarlo Esposito, so I'm all for it.
Yeah.
Oh, my... because that's the other part of this, right? When we talk about the Fantastic Four, you can't do the Fantastic Four without Victor Von Doom.
Yeah,
and you need, you need a character actor to play Victor Von Doom. So yes,
and he would be amazing.
He would be fantastic. I would be right in there for him being casted as Doom. Okay, other things on my list this week. I did watch Voyager, in keeping with the watch party. We're into season 4. These are now much easier episodes for me. I like these. They go pretty quick. I watched more Blacklist. I crossed over into season 2 of Blacklist. I like this show. I forget how much I liked this show. It would have been a cool premise for a role-playing game. It's a fun game, and James Spader is just as Reddington. I love that character so much. He's great.
Did you watch past season 2?
I think I have when it was on the air.
Yeah, because I was like while season 2 was airing, I was like 5-6 episodes behind. That's when I was catching up to it, and I didn't like season 2 as much as I liked season 1. it was there was something about the whole baby storyline that just didn't work for me.
I think that's season 3.
Was that 3? Did I get
2? Is he's trying to figure out what to do with Berlin.
Maybe I made it to season 3. I made it to the baby.
Yeah, I know off. I made it that far too. But I'm not anywhere near there. I'm like early season 2, and we're not anywhere near baby at this point. But anyway, I still dig that one. I've been playing around. Like the only thing I've been playing with any regularity is this app game, Space Arena Builder, which is still moderately fun. And then lastly, we played some Forbidden Lands. And I thought I knew how the adventure was going to go that evening.
Surprise.
But, here's the thing about it. So here's what happened. In the previous session, the characters were engaged in some mass combat and overran the town from these religious zealots, the Rust brothers, who were controlling the town.
Yeah.
And they had bottled up the last of them in the town hall. And then they went in, like, busted in the doors. And they made a stand. Like, they had some hostages under a magical thrall. And I just figured, like, this will probably just go down as a fight. And Bob wound up negotiating with them. And I don't like playing cheesy bad guys, right? Like, I could have just forced it into a fight. But, like, Bob was like, we'll let you leave. Like, go back north and tell the rest of your zealots what happened here.
Mm-hmm.
And there were only 3 of them, so it wasn't like they could make any real stand without getting murdered.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, okay, they leave. Like, they can't possibly win this situation. They're outnumbered. The town's overrun. Like, escape is the only option they really have at this point. If you had started the fight, they would have had to defend themselves. But when you opened the door for them, I was like, yeah, all right, well, they're leaving. Like, we're not doing this combat scene. I even had like a battle mat set out for it. Like, we just like, nope, we're just not going to do that.
You never know. Yeah, I thought about it when we got into the situation. My character, if we run into a Rust brother, and these are like the really, really, really heinously bad religious zealots. Like, these are the kind of people, like, you will toe the line and you will worship their way when they say, and all of that crap. And they will kill you without.
Yep, they will put you to the sword. Yeah.
And my character, like, if I run into one of them, it doesn't take much of an excuse for me to just take the axe to them. But they've been building up forces, and they've been starting to encroach closer and closer to where our base is, and gobbling up towns along the way. Mm-hmm. And when we went to liberate this town of Swanford, I was like, all right, like, I could just wait in here and just hack this dude up, or I could send him home with a message to the head muckety-muck and say, listen, cut your shit, or you're going to have problems with me. Right? And we're getting a reputation for being quite capable people.
And they did you guys made your reputation roll, so they knew who you were.
Yeah. So it's like,
they also know, without being able to pin it on you, they also know that when they sent out a group of these guys to track down some refugees that tried to escape from the town, those people never came home.
That's right, because we killed them all. They tried to assault our camp, and we said no. We engaged all defenses, and we killed them all, and we buried the bodies, and said, that's what we do to zealots. And that was that. And I know that the guy who's leading the charge up the river, I know he's not going to back down. He's not going to be like, oh yeah, okay, I guess maybe we'll. No. He's going to come in force, and he's going to be like, we have to take out these adventuring jerks that keep screwing up our plans. But, I wanted to give them that message and say, look. Plus, I also wanted to give the town, like, that, like, look, like, killing everything in sight isn't always the answer,
Mm-hmm.
Like, subconsciously, like, that was that was like a subtle message to the town as well. Like, these guys did bad things to your people, but everybody else has paid for it. We're sending them off on their way to tell the other people, you don't mess with us. Mm-hmm. Some of them didn't agree with it. I'm sure they would have liked a little more retribution, but, you know. But again,
well, I mean, it's interesting because now I have to figure out, like, what the response to, I mean, first of all, look, they lost a lot of resources. Oh, yeah. Like, they sent a lot of resources into that town to take it and to build the forces to go take other towns around the lake. And now they just lost all that. So I think what's going to wind up happening is that for the sake of, and this is just from a GMing point of view, like, I think they have to circle their wagons. Sure. Like, the threat didn't go away, but I don't think, like, next week they're going to march on the city.
No, I don't think so.
Which is okay, because honestly, what it does for us in terms of beats is now we'll go and do another, like, you guys can go do another thing now.
Yep, exactly. But yeah, and this is not the first time that this particular adventuring party has not gone all murder hobo.
No, I gave you an experience point for not going murder hobo.
Many times before that sometimes killing is not the answer.
Right. Yes, I mean, if killing has to be done,
we'll do it.
Fully prepared. Yeah. But no, it was just interesting because I was like, this is pretty much like a straightforward adventure, like a straightforward encounter.
Yeah.
And but when you offered it to him, I was like, in my head, I was like, it would be really dumb for them to make a stand right now. Like, there's no win to this. They can't take back the town.
Nope.
And even if they kill one of you, they're probably going to die. And they're not going to win anything anyway, because the townspeople will murder them if they try to walk out of here. I was like, no, they're leaving. Like, they just need to get out of here. The hostages they had were merely a tactic to buy their way out of the town.
Yep.
So I was good with it. Like, I didn't have a problem with it, but it did catch me by surprise. And then I had less material. So it was fine. Like, it's totally fine. Yeah. And for that game, like, wherever it winds up I'm happy with, like, at 45 sessions in.
Yeah.
And coming up on 2 years of play.
Yeah.
I'm very comfortable. Like, whatever happens in that game is what happens, and that's cool. Yep. But it was a moment where I was like, oh yeah, I thought they would just go in and murder those guys, like, to finish off the whole thing. And it's like, yeah, they totally didn't murder them. Okay. Like, all right, well, then that's what we're doing tonight.
Another notable thing about that session was we started discussing the possibility of some of the characters either being retired or swapping them out troop style. Because Glenn decided that he was thinking of retiring his character, and he started rolling up another one.
Yeah, we got to talking about how much a lot of you guys have not only have a lot of experience sitting in your character, like on your character sheet, but a lot of you have spent a lot of experience and are actually pretty jacked up. And since this game is showing no signs of quitting, I opened the door on the idea that, like, hey, if you want to retire one of your characters or put him in the background and want to make up another one, not only can you do it, but I will also let you take all of your current experience points from your one character and give them to your new character, so that your new character can actually start off with some extra stuff. You have enough of a reputation and you have a home base now that like people are going to seek you out.
Yep.
So which I think is really cool, because the idea of like troop or generational play like also seems like pretty dope.
Yeah.
Like, and I think it's good. Like, I think it'll be fine to just to have that just to have that opportunity, like to try out new character. Like, why not? Like like otherwise the game could get stale. Like, and you know, and I did say, like, you don't have to retire your character. You can simply say, like, my character now primarily resides at the keep, but like, you know, at the next time we return to the keep, you could be like, oh yeah, I'm taking that character out instead.
Yeah.
Which then really gets it into troop style.
Yep.
But I was very okay with that. Cool. I think it'll be fun.
Yep.
Yeah. Again, I mean, I never expected Forbidden Lands to go this long.
Yeah.
Oh, and the other thing, I'll just mention this before we wrap up for tonight. We had this discussion in our Forbidden Lands game. we are all fully vaccinated.
Yes.
And in 2 weeks, we're going to play in person for the first time in
You're
like
gonna
15
sit
months.
at a table together.
Yeah.
In our vaccinated forms.
Yeah, there's only 4 of us in the game, 4 or 5 of us. We're just going to go to Sean's house where we always play. It'll just be the 5 of us in the game room, all fully vaccinated by CDC standards with a small room gathering of all vaccinated people. We can go maskless. And we're going to do it in person
and it's beforehand and
it's going to seem really weird.
Just like old times.
The one thing I have to do besides prep the adventure is that because this is Forbidden Lands, you have to know what hexes you've been through because you don't have to roll for those again. So now I have to update the 16-month-old paper map with the virtual map from Roll20 and line them back up and put in all the hexes that they've been through. And they've been through a lot of hexes. So yeah, I forgot, like, we're going back in person, and that's pretty exciting. It'll be the first time I think I've seen Bob since September. September or October.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's going to be, I know it's going to be emotional. Like it's going to be a whole thing before we even start playing.
Oh yeah. There's going to be hugs.
Yeah. Yeah. There's going to be a lot of hugs going on.
A lot of hugging.
So yeah, that's it. That's exciting. Yep. That's exciting. And that's probably a good place for us to leave off for tonight and head into the after show. So Bob, get us out of here with some patron shout outs.
I will do some patron shout outs. Thank you very much to MT Black, Matthew Petrozelli, Mike Olson, Padme's Lover, Robert Dorgan, Ryan Bolter, Texas Bento, and Troy Pitchelman. And thank you to everyone tonight for listening.
If you are free on Tuesday evenings at 8 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. the Queen's Time, come join us live on Twitch, where you can chat with other listeners in the awesome chat room for life and ask us the occasional question.
Jerry, you're muted somehow.
There we go. I muted when I stepped out. If you want to make a live show, check out our podcast each week, wherever you get our podcasts. And take a listen to some of the other shows at the Misdirected Mark Network, such as Mastery Dungeon, Bone Sword Obsidian, the FM Gamers, Panastalking Games, the Gnome Cast, John Crew Hustle, The Lounge, Bonus Experience, and back episodes of She's a Super Geek. You can and should also check out our sibling podcasts, Tabletop Bellhop, The Knights of the Night, and the always amazing Gaming and BS.
After you have picked your job, and before you call your fence to make sure that they can move those items, why don't you drop us a line? You can reach us directly via the old-fashioned emails, mmp@misdirectedmark.com. Hit us up on Twitter. The show and the network is at Misdirected Mark. He's at Robert M. Everson. He is GM Gerrymander. I am DNA Phil.
If you like what we do here and on the other shows in the Misdirected Mark Network, you can support our Patreon campaigns. MMP, Mastering Dungeons, and Pandas Talking Games are at patreon.com/MMP. Zhangu Hustle is at patreon.com/Zhangu Hustle, and Bonus Experience is at patreon.com/Bonus Experience. Patrons of MMP, Mastering Dungeons, and Pandas Talking Games get access to the after show, pre-production show notes, musical parodies, the Bamboo Lounge, and other special releases.
This has been a Mr. Mark production, the media arm of Encoded Designs. Mic drop.
Yout.